Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan East, and today I'll be discussing the value of using a camera-based monitoring system within the dementia ward at Riverview Health Center here in Winnipeg. So just as a brief introduction, by 2031, nearly 1 million Canadians will have dementia, and it is crucial to find a solution capable of monitoring unsafe behavior within patients which may be harmful to themselves or others. Currently, the best solution available for monitoring patients with dementia is to have care workers perform regular checkups on patients within the ward. However, this solution is not an ideal one in many situations. If a patient were to injure themselves in their room and not be able to call for help, the only way to assist them is to hope a care worker comes across them in a timely manner. Thus, it can be seen that an automated system to alert workers to these situations would be highly valuable. Thus, the purpose of this project is to combine a number of different technological pieces in a low cost and private manner to develop a platform for behavioral disturbance recognition. Furthermore, identifying not just hazardous behaviors, but potentially dangerous objects as well. A focus group was conducted at Riverview Health Center here in Winnipeg. The group had a total of 9 participants, 8 healthcare professionals, and 1 family member. The purpose of the focus group being to establish a list of frequently seen hazardous events within the dementia ward. The list produced from this focus group was extensive, containing upwards of 40 different events. After the list had been received, it was time to move on to designing the actual system which would be used to observe and recognize these events. After analyzing the list drafted by the focus group, a camera-based solution was decided upon. The system would begin with a number of cameras located in various areas of Riverview. These would be located in areas of high patient interaction, such as common areas and dining areas, as well as quieter areas where healthcare professionals would not normally patrol. These cameras would then send their video feeds to a centralized computer at Riverview, where the camera feeds would be processed. The processing of these camera feeds is a threefold action with 3 separate neural networks analyzing the data. One looks for hazardous objects, one identifies people and their motions, and while the last one analyzes their motions to determine if the patient is doing anything hazardous. While going through the lists of events developed by the focus group, it was decided to categorize each event into one of 3 categories. The first 2 are behavioral categories involving either one or multiple people. The single person category includes identifying actions such as temper tantrums or self-harm, while the multiple person category includes actions such as fighting or scratching other patients. The third category is related to object detection system and is for any hazardous objects which are detected. This category is for actions such as throwing of an object or destroying property. It's also important to analyze not just the objects, but how the patients may interact with an object. An example being if a patient is walking with a sharp object, such as a pair of scissors, the patient simply walking is of no issue, but when gripping a sharp object, this is now an event that a healthcare worker should be notified of. After the system analyzes and categorizes the actions, an alert will be sent to the nearest care worker informing them of the location and nature of the action. The practical implementation of this alert is still being discussed with Riverview, as there are benefits and drawbacks to having alerts sent via email or text or a specifically designed app. As discussed earlier, the system is to be implemented with a series of cameras, specifically the Intel RealSense D435 depth sensing camera, as you can see here. These cameras have a 720p RGB camera along with infrared and depth sensing capabilities. The RGB camera is just a simple webcam which allows for analysis of motion in well-lit conditions. The infrared sensor allows the camera to operate in low light situations as well. This is a valuable addition to the camera as it's entirely possible for a patient to wander around at night and potentially either get into a fight or cause harm to themselves. The depth sensing aspect of the camera has yet to be fully explored, but it offers a number of potential improvements to be made in the future. Future improvements will be discussed in a later slide, but the main idea is to use the depth sensing ability to calculate things such as speed of objects or people. The program used to detect people within the camera's vision is called OpenPose and is a free software available off GitHub. It constructs a skeleton which is overlaid on all people within the camera frame. This skeleton marks all the joints of the person, such as the right shoulder and even notable features such as the nose. The XY coordinates of these joints within the frame can then be sent to the behavioral detection neural network. This network then analyzes how this joint position changes frame by frame and concludes what motion the person is doing. The final piece of software is a convolutional recurrent neural network, a CRNN. Explaining how this network operates is not really within the scope of the presentation and not something I'm entirely qualified to discuss either. However, at its core, the network has been trained to know what a number of objects look like. The network then checks every video frame to see if any of these objects are located within the frame. If so, it highlights the object and displays a number which represents how confident the network is in having identified the object. As can be seen on this slide here, this is a test frame from a behavior detection test we ran in the lab. The skeleton constructed over Kami is created by OpenPose, and the joint points can be easily seen. The boxes and colored highlighting are from the object detection network. The number viewable in the top left of the boxes is the certainty that the network has in its detection. As can be seen, the object detection network has a very good level of accuracy, most objects being above 90% certainty. For the chairs in the back, the certainty is much lower, but this is to be expected due to A, the distance, and B, how obscured those chairs are from the camera. As for the behavior detection, there is a small video demonstration, which I can show you. So we can see Camille here performing the basics of a fighting motion and then the alert appearing on the left side of the screen there. As can be seen, the system takes only a short time to identify the action, but obviously in real life, the motion for fighting is not so clean. This is why things such as shouting and aggressive posturing, such as waving one's arms, are also behaviors we can either identify or are working on being able to identify. As can be seen here, we have a number of different detectable actions for a variety of different situations, but it's far from exhaustive. The plans for the future of the project include extending this list and including actions more pertinent to the behaviors we wish to detect in the dementia ward. This leads me to my final section here, the future goals of this project. So as I said, adding additional motions to be recognized is one of the main additions to be made, as this will overall increase the versatility and reliability of the system. However, additionally, we are working to customize the alert system to better suit the dementia ward at Riverview. Currently, as the system simply displays a message on the monitor, as you saw in the example, the alert method is more a proof that the behaviors can be detected. The goal will be to expand the system into a way to remotely communicate to workers near the situation and send them to resolve the issue as fast as possible. Furthermore, the inclusion of the depth sensing abilities of the D435 camera will allow for accurate calculations of things such as speed. With this, it would be possible to detect things such as objects which have been thrown and turned into projectiles, or patients running through the ward. And finally, to edit the object detection to focus on items relevant to the dementia ward. Currently, the system is capable of detecting a number of unnecessary items, such as various animals like cows and sheep. By removing these objects and adding in others, it will increase the processing time and increase the accuracy for the objects we do care about. As you can see in the picture on this slide here, the scissors are properly detected in the bottom image, but when they're just moved slightly further away, the system can no longer detect them. So we would want to train it to detect smaller items such as scissors and knives at greater distances by removing some of the other objects that it can detect, which we don't care about. With that, thank you for listening to my presentation, and I open the floor for any questions.
Hi. Thank you very much, Rian. It was a wonderful presentation, and we are waiting for the question from audience. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, this is Samira Rahimi, Maggie of Family Medicine. So I have a question. Thank you for the presentation, first of all, and
thank you.
My comments first is about the focus group that you conducted, and usually based on the studies, one focus group will not be enough to catch all of the teams available and to discover all of the teams, and probably there was this power relationships in the focus group between family members and the healthcare professionals. Education and family members do not feel comfortable to express themselves with healthcare professionals. So usually we separate them, family members and patients in different focus groups than healthcare professionals. So in terms of the algorithm that you developed, my question was that did you personalize your algorithm based on different, to respond based on different personality or let's say features of these patients, since not all of these senior residents respond in the same way or respond with the same behavior in the defined situation. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so customizing this detection algorithm for wherever it may be implemented is a fantastic idea and something that we're definitely looking to do. Currently, we're just working on this as a small, making sure that this is doable and even possible. And that's why we only had one focus group. And you're right, normally you do split up, the professionals and the family members, but we were looking for the family or the professionals to basically tell us a very general list of things we could look for. Then once we detect the general list, then we can start customizing the algorithm based upon where it's being implemented. As you are correct, not every patient within the dementia ward sort of acts in the same manner. As for the family member, that was for discussions about things such as privacy uh, and making sure that family members who, are family members of the patients within the ward are okay with this camera system. And from that, they were very okay with it. They saw no issues with it as we are taking many steps to make sure that privacy is respected.
Bala, maybe I can comment on that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Rahimi. This is Amin. I was sitting in that focus group and we followed with one interview with one caregiver. Actually, she is a woman about 8 years old, and she is caregiving for her husband, who is almost dying and with Alzheimer. And very interestingly, she was really open to any technology to be used at home, especially for patients who are close to death, because anyway we need to to resolve their problem. So even the privacy issues are not even there for those kinds of families, like families without kids at the end of life, and we have one of the partner who is taking care of that. I got that information that is not presented in Ryan's work today, but I can mention that, and we are not mentioning because we cannot make statistics or deeper qualitative analysis, but I remember that the same lady explained that she is sharing the same thought that she is observing in her community with same people, with same like partners who are caregiving for the other one. So I think, yes, the privacy, we will be respecting that, but in some cases, yes, we will respect privacy all the time, but I think what we are hearing in the interviews and folks group is really encouraging and goes beyond what the healthcare professionals want to put in place. That being said, I need to put a nuance on that, because family members will think that they can benefit from those technologies in their houses, not just in settings. So they are more open, even more open than healthcare providers. Healthcare providers are trained in a way, they need to practice in a certain way, but people in their houses feel more freedoms to take technology. So we think that this kind of solution could be implemented for house in houses before institutions in Canada and US, like in the mindset we have in North America. I think this helps ask your question.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for adding that point.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, Rian, one more question from Anna. How many cameras ideally required for a whole room monitoring?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's kind of dependent upon like the structure of the room. For example, if you had, say, an L-shaped room, you would need at the very least 2 cameras to be able to cover the entirety of the room. Ideally, you would probably have, depending on the size, 2 to 3 cameras. If you're talking about like a small personal bedroom, just 1 camera is fine. But in larger common areas, you would most likely want 2 to 3, just to make sure you can get an angle on everything and to make sure no areas fully obfuscated from the cameras. As the behavior detection and all those calculations are run on the computer, not the camera. So the camera doesn't get overwhelmed by however many number of people are in the frame. It can handle as many as it sees, but just the more it sees, the more data it passes to the computer.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. And one more question from me. Specifically, what kind of behavior, like I have seen that in your slide, like a temper tantrum, other things I have seen 2-3 behavioral issues. Do you have plan to use it? Do you have plan to evaluate other behavior problems? Because dementia usually have a lot of problem, because this you have seen that like a fighting and everything. So if it is alone in the dementia patient, elder people, if they are alone in the home, so that time, do you have any plan to observe or evaluate other kind of behavior problem in your project or in the future project?
Yes, absolutely. To extend the behavioral detection list is definitely another improvement to be made. We're starting off with the more verbose actions, the more obvious ones to detect, such as fighting, where there's a lot of motion. But we were given quite the extensive list by the focus group for other behaviors, such as, banging your head against the wall, for example, or scratching at one's arms, which are far more subtle actions. But yes, we plan to be able to detect those as well.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, same thing, like you have planned for like a wandering behavior, just like
yeah,
moving from the sleeping problem. Yeah. Okay, thank you. It was a really wonderful presentation. You did a well job. Yeah. Thank you, Rian.
All right, thank you.
Move on to the next presenter. Yeah, I would like to invite Masato Segen and
Bala.
Yes.
Bala, I want to just to share a screen if possible, if you have 1 minute.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's dark.
Okay. So basically, this is Riverview Health Center that Ryan is talking about. This is the ACE, the Alzheimer Center of Excellence, where we are trying to give more freedom for Alzheimer patients. So here, for example, you are giving, if we stop the video here, we have different doors for every patient so that they recognize their room. We have tablets here to remind them about like their souvenirs, their childhoods, their family members, etc. This is one of the features that here we are giving more freedom to eat, wider room with more like bigger windows on the in the outdoor area, and we are giving activities that healthy people does in real life. Like, for example, let me see, like exercising, working, like simulating washing a car. So we were donated a car here and they can wash it to feel like they still have a car. Play music, get into social activities. Here they have like TV screen, they can show, they can dance, they can go from this side to the outdoor to get like semi-controlled activities as barbecue or dining outside and stuff like that. And we have a station in the middle where we're having computers to monitor all what we are doing. So this is the external piece where we are giving more freedoms than regular institutions that are hosting patients with dementia. This is the same car. This is the socializing piece. This is the kitchen where they will be given opportunity to do like safe or semi-safe cooking activities with home feeling. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Amin.
Yeah, so this is a little bit to explain the context of Ryan's project and also our research capability in Alzheimer in Winnipeg. Thanks for your time.